And so for me, these guys essentially define the artist-manager collaboration, when it comes to independent music. So, of course, I think this is something that like only people in the indie industry know. I mean, I think everybody knows who Dhruv Visvanath is. I mean, like we heard all those stats and the amazing, and his album I think has been really like one of the I'm safe to say one of the best albums to come out this year. And even though it's a collection of singles plus some new tracks, and I think we'll talk about how that came about, the idea to sort of release this album in this way, and Rajiv's the part that he played in it. But I think that, and we're sort of privileged here because I believe that Rajiv actually hasn't been on a webinar before. He's like, this is like his first time. So we'll be hearing a lot of insights from him. So first and foremost, I wanted to know, like, if I think we'll have a lot of like upcoming musicians tuning in, and a lot of them, one of the things that they wonder is like, when do I get management, and how do I choose a manager, and all those kind of very basic questions. But I would like you guys to tell us, first up, how did you all meet? When and how did you all meet? And what sort of made you realize that this could actually work? So either of you, who wants to take it?
Okay. First off, I have to say with the introduction, it was really funny how she said like, Rajeev Rao has been Dhruv's manager and friend for it's like a prescribed time. The thing is, I see the relationship as one and the same, because it's so vital in the way that we function, and it's so vital in the way that we kind of work together, that you have to kind of build an emotional connection with the person you're working with. So, but in terms of how we met and everything of the sort, it was, your standard, your Instagram message or something like that, saying like, I'm in town, let's meet. I would really love to talk to you about, something I'm working on.
Who called who?
That was Rajiv messaged me actually.
Yeah, I think so. I'll tell you a story. So what happened? I was in Bangalore. Then I thought, okay, let me just move to Delhi without having any clue of what I'm going to do. So I just moved to Delhi, and I was working with Mahesh Raghunandan.
Okay.
Back then. Then I said, can you connect me with anyone that you think would be great to connect with?
Why did you want to move to Delhi? I mean, I just like out of curiosity, like just
nothing, just like randomly. Okay, I lived in Bangalore. I was in Delhi for a while before that. I said, let's try and see what happens, because I was young back then, very young. Okay, let me see what happens. So I just moved there without having any clue of what I'm going to do. But I was sure I'm going to be in the music business for sure. And yeah, that's when I just asked Mahesh, could you connect me with anyone that you think would be great to connect with? Then he, I think, connected on email. Then Dhruv shared his phone number. I just sent him a message and asked him, hey, can we connect and all this stuff. That's when, that's how it all happened. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went to Nevedyam here in Delhi and ate South Indian food together, and we talked. And I was in the middle of planning a tour across the country, and the Lost Cause tour, what inevitably went on to be my first, the following album. But yeah, and it was an adventure because we started talking, and he was kind of exploring things. He was telling me he had spoken to a bunch of artists before me as well. Like, by the time we actually got to sitting down and trying to understand things, at that time, I think there was, I think to answer the first sort of question about like, when should you get an artist manager or something like that? It's a lot like when you're an entrepreneur or something like that. You always work with people who are, who either allow you to work better or who are smarter than you at things that you want, as things you don't have the capability in or something like that, or not as yet, somebody you can learn from. And I think I knew in that moment, the moment I interacted with him and everything, that this was it was really apparent that I was learning from the get-go. So I thought like, wow, there's something a lot more than just like thinking about, hey, I need more gigs, I need regular independent music squabbles and all that and stuff. It's like it was just, it felt more than just the interaction of the fact that I'm just an independent artist, and everything. I felt more like somebody with a valuable product, a valuable thing to share with the world. And so it was really nice to have somebody who also who saw it that way and made me understand that it can be seen that way.
So you didn't have any management before that, as in you hadn't had.
I did have somebody at the time, but I think it was a very rudimentary kind of arrangement that I had, where somebody would answer I just had a friend who would just screen calls for me and just be like, if somebody calls or something like that, do you think this is a good idea? Is this not? Should we work with this kind of thing? And it took me a fair distance. I mean, to this, in the sense that I got an understanding of how things were, but I think very quickly I realized how repetitive and how cyclical things were. And over here, I think what I've been learning more now is that whilst some things can feel very cyclical and follow a pattern, other things can really develop from that. It's like if you were to kick a wet football or something like that, you see the water kind of spin out or something like that, as you spin it. It was like that, like there's greater consequences and you can create ripples in many different directions. So I think this is something that I have kind of it's a weird analogy, I know.
Yeah,
but
wow, a wet football, I have never heard of that one before.
No, but if you remember, if you see a tennis ball that's wet and then you see all those droplets kind of spin out of it or something.
Yeah.
So that's why I see it. Your consequences can be far more, the reach and the impact you can have can be far more than just the object spinning in the middle.
So make a splash. Yes.
Yeah.
Rajeev, why, at that time, were you managing any other artists, and how many artists do you manage now? Is it just Dhruv?
I manage Tajra Junaid.
Okay. Yeah.
And so Nishu, which is Nishay Parekh's project.
Yeah. Okay. His Hindi project.
That's all for now. Yeah. Hindi project. Yeah.
So when you had a list of artists that you thought you wanted to work with. Why did you want to work with Dhruv? And it's
because this is music. I think when
I paid for lunch.
Not really. If I don't like someone's music, I can't really do anything for them. I need to be connected emotionally. For me to go beyond just it's not just about transactions that I will get this much of money if something happens. It's beyond that for me. I need to be passionate about who they are. And what kind of music they make and what kind of value they bring into the society through their music and the stories they want to share. And from the get-go, I've always been his fan. The song For the Enigma, they were songs that I would listen over again and again. And I'm a fan. Before a manager, I think I'm a huge fan of his music.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty essential, right? I mean, if you're managing somebody, you need to love their music. You need to be passionate about the music first.
For sure.
It's all about the music.
And also who they are as a human being.
Yeah. So, I mean, was there anything, again, when did you figure out that this could actually work?
It just there is no, I can't say anything it's going to work, but I think I worked with a lot of artists in the past, but the kind of person Dhruv was, who gave me a lot of freedom, and he believed in me when I had no belief in myself,
I think his audio just cut off.
For example, I think before that I was mostly a booking agent. I would go and get gigs, and that's pretty much all about. But when it comes to Dhruv, he gave me so much freedom, so much, and he had so much belief in me that I tried to look for what could be the options to go beyond just bookings, and back then I was trying to for example, there were back before Lost Cause, this was the first project that we worked on in terms of the album. So there were pretty much CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid.
And then they have a merger, that you might be just predicting the future.
Yeah.
The Punjabi distribution company, DistroKore.
Yeah. So people are using those platforms, but I was trying to see what else is there in the market, and who provide you're beyond just the supply chain service, So I did a lot of research, I tried to find, I found this platform called AWOL, which was back then Cobalt's company. Now it's owned by Sony.
Yeah.
So I reached out to them, trying to find what's possible. And and then trying to understand how we could market things better. So like a lot of options that I could see, it's not beyond just bookings. I could see a lot of options. That is, you can look at, publishing. There are a lot of rights involved in terms of compositions and publishing, a lot of rights involved when it comes to the master recordings, and how people perceive the stories the art is trying to make. So I could see a different world altogether, and that I could never see with anyone else, because nobody gave me that freedom, to see through the world through the music somebody's making, so I think that was pretty much sure that, okay, great. I'm just grateful to have someone like him, and see the future with him. And I think that's how I started to realize, this is gonna be something special.
Yeah, and I think you talked about how, initially you wanted to be more than just a booking agent, but I think there is a lot of, in India especially, there's a lot of confusion in terms of exactly what a manager does. A lot of people just think that being a manager is being a booking agent and just getting you gigs. And on the other hand, there's the other extreme where people think your manager is your personal assistant, he's your PA, picks up your laundry and things like that, which is also like an incorrect, like I hope nobody does that, but like only on a very exceptional basis. Or is it just that the manager, and we use this word before, but like I'd add like friend, philosopher, and guide. Is that what a manager is essentially? How do you define being a manager?
Yeah, I think it's being a manager. It's not beyond business. There's so much more to that. You get to spend a lot of time spending, understanding who they are as a human being, understand their psyche, their pattern, their strength, their weaknesses. Because once you understand all this stuff, it helps you to, suggest what could be possibly we could develop over the long term. I'm a slow burn. I believe in, slow and steady growth instead of having a success in a year, then flat after a while. So I think, when it comes to manager, it's about the fact, spending a lot of time together, and trying to figure out and understand where they're coming from their as a creative person, and what kind of music they want to make, and how do they see themselves, over the next couple of years, what's their goal, and how we could, and what could possibly work, what would not work, and of course you have to also look at the P&L, how much money you have, how much you want to spend, and what possibly you could spend, a lot of factors comes. It's broadly, there is not one thing, but I think at the core of everything, it's of course, it is business side of things, but sometimes also have to be a more like a friend, understanding a lot of like a lot of strength and weakness of the artist, that you can work with.
I, if I may add to that,
I was going to ask you as well what you
because what I have noticed from a lot of people is that there is a power dynamic that people try to maintain between an artist and a manager. The artist is supreme and the manager works under them. But the idea of what I have learned is that Rajeev and I will argue straight up from the thing, like, and this is what I have not had with anybody else, in the sense that there is a disagreement, it needs to be faced front head on. You have to kind of argue things through and everything of the sort. What I have noticed a lot of the times is that, like, that oftentimes you feel like unless I am in power, somebody else is going to take something from me. And this is what I have learned, is that as an artist, you are in a place where you're putting your music out there, you're giving people the option to listen to your stories and make them their own. Why should your personal relationships be equated with this dynamic of sorts? And this is where I find that, like, a manager is not just a person who's, break the term down. It's literally you need somebody to help you manage the aspects of your career which you cannot get a grasp of. If it is to think of the aspect of distribution, now you're going to think from this artist side that the distribution is going to be like this. You have to think of it like that. You're going to have to focus on so many things. sometimes the artist is overwhelmed. It puts mental pressure, and suddenly you kind of create the shell of a human being who's making music and then trying to manage all these other things. And sometimes the second brain, the other personality that works with you in these sort of things, what ends up happening is that you need a person who is not exactly kind of increasing the burden on your output, or on the kind of work you're doing, or making bad decisions for you. It's helping you mitigate the decisions you make. If you want your music out there, how are you going to do it? Okay, I've done the research on this is the way, these are the ways on which you can put your music out there. This has the potential of being more present on so and so places and things like that. This might be a good investment, this might not be. It might be a one time thing, but and it's the same thing, like how do you build a relationship with somebody? How do you kind of nurture these things? For example, I might not have the ability to build a network, but Rajeev does, and Rajeev also has the ability to not just to build a network in terms of just to utilize them, but to connect with them, relate with them, befriend, build a culture, build a different kind of things. These are small things that people take for granted and other people are not. And what I realized is that, and I think this is how I try to work. It is hard, like being an independent musician, sometimes you do get caught up in the monetary aspect of things, but I try to work in the sense that like I have to have some belief in the person who's working in for me, and who's my champion. And I have never met a person like Rajiv who actually believes in my music in the same way, outside of my own family, of course. Like, you're all beta, well done, sit in the living room, play for all of us. But I've never met another person like that who who actually is who feels like a champion for me, who's who's kind of like sounding the horn when I sometimes don't have the motivation to. And it's more than just a gig. What I'd like to sort of sometimes just let people know of the fact is that life is more than just one gig. You play at the biggest festival in the world, the people who are there will remember you, the people outside of it will never know. Unless they see something on the internet, like maybe months or years later or something, and that God knows. But what is the impact you're leaving for a long for the foreseeable future? Are you putting your best foot forward? Are you trying to tell the best story you can? Are you trying to you know are you trying to look for more than just like that quick buck kind of feeling? That's which I feel like a lot of artists sometimes do have, and I'm afraid to admit it, but sometimes I do too. But it's all about like trying to find the balance of which, like, even if something doesn't pay off now, you need somebody here who has a vision for you. And the vision is something that can work without a budget. It costs nothing to have a vision. And and I think when I met him, it was literally that, like he said he needed somebody to like let him be open. I didn't know I could be this open. I didn't know I had the opportunity. If I worked on my music like this, this is the possibility, these are the possibilities that exist for it. And then suddenly you're thinking of not just one song in a movie, you're thinking of multiple songs in a movie. You're thinking of producing now for bigger brands. You're thinking of like being a part of more than just things, more than just a single interaction. And life is built with that. And I think the way we try to work is that always set the foundations strong so that you can always build on it.
And you talked about disagreements, and I know we're going to sort of go through your go through some processes or over the course of this conversation. But like, Rajiv, I wanted to ask you, like, how much of being a manager is also getting an artist out of their comfort zone, and making them do things that they may not necessarily want to do. Like, I don't know, like, have you been making reels, and things like that? Which I don't know, maybe he loves making reels, but like, or something like that, just essentially, because the music industry is constantly changing. Like today, in today's age, like there's always a new trend to sort of latch on to, and especially when you make music that's so personal and so like sort of, so I guess so divorced from this kind of like, quick, fast pace kind of, hashtag of the day kind of music. How do you like, how do you deal with that? Like, essentially getting artists to do what maybe you think would be good for their career, but maybe not something that would essentially be something they do obviously or on their own.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's always a challenge, You always put forward like what you see possibly could work, but sometimes, uh, it's a challenge, to let them know, okay, this could possibly work. And see, you have a lot of ideas, and not like, let's say you have 10 ideas. Maybe he, as an artist, as a creative person, he could probably relate with one or two. And how do you make sure we optimize on one, two ideas? Like in terms of reels, yes, he does. He's not a huge fan of social media. Like we always have this kind of chat that, okay, but the fact is that there is no way we can get out of that at this point of time. We have to be a part of it.
Yeah.
We may not be part of the trend, but
Yeah.
you have to be part of it in some way or other.
Yeah.
So it's but sometimes you also have to understand, okay, like what's the comfort zone, and if they feel that they don't want to do that, let them be, because it's not, you're not playing for a short run, you're here for a long run. Okay. And if somebody feels, no, this is not right time for me to do it, it's okay, let them take the break. But again, you have to very clear, you have to know when you can, come back to them and say, okay, it's enough and enough, let's go back. We have to get back to the business, make sure we are up and running. So yeah, so it's really, I really have like, how do I put it, like it's always a challenge, but you have to also understand from their perspective, and try to bring a balance to it.
Yeah.
I will say, like, he's being very kind. Every time he sent, every second day I get a message from him saying, you should produce like this, you should try this, you should do that. I think he focuses less on how I present myself and rather how I create. I think the creative aspect is something that he actually, I feel like he feels more useful putting an input there, like, putting some inputs there. So he'll suggest kind of music, the kind of music which, maybe sometimes I thought a lot of the times I don't agree on the songs he sends, but sometimes there's one or two songs which actually just really click or something like that, where the ideas are just like, just stupendous to me. But that being said, like, you have a sensibility, you have a thought process and everything of the sort, and I do see where he comes from. I think, like, it's a valid point that sometimes, you have to make something like this, and then I try to see it from his perspective, and then, also try to see what applies and what we can do in our current environment and what works. Because I could very well easily, like, if I spent 6 months focusing, I could become the next David Guetta. But is that who I really want to be? That's not probably the right thing. I could be the next Adele, short of a few surgeries. But, like, it's just like something of, it's about how you focus and try to pick on the advice that somebody gives you as well. Like, I think that's at some point, I think both of us have really learned how to actively listen, and so I try to pick on the parts on which we can use for our benefit. So I think this is where the disagreements work really well. Like, this is where, like, if I really disagree with something, he'll be like, okay, no, but I think I see it like this, and and then at some level, like, you're kind of trying to understand his perspective and all that. But when you make music as well, the one person who accepts it for the way it is or something like that is so different from the other person who sees it as something else and everything. So we have to be very careful about the subjectivity of our craft as well. And so sometimes, having a person with an opinion like that can really help build that subjectivity to make it, to understand, like, oh, this part can be accessible in this way, this part I know how to feel more personal and everything. So I feel a more creative connect with Rajeev, because I know he is a very creative person, and not in the same way as you would consider like a musician or an artist or something, but he's a creative manager in a different way, like and I don't, you'll find managers who really know, who'll do the social media thing, who'll figure out how to get your gig anywhere or anything of the sort. But you need a guy who wants to figure out it's like who wants to build the Millennium Falcon by the Lego Millennium Falcon without the instructions. Rajiv is that guy. He's very exploratory, and I think like I really like that approach he has. So
I think I come more on the production mixing. Okay, we could try that, we could do this, all this stuff.
And I think we can sort of explore that angle now. One of the things we'd like to do in this series is also hear some music and talk about how the actual music making process, the role that the collaborator plays in that music making process. So I thought we could go, just step by step from like the major milestones, in your career, Dhruv, and like talking from the time Rajeev started managing you, we can start off by talking about the Lost Cause and, how that album release was planned. And, there's a music video for Wild that everybody, looked at and started looking at mops in a very different way after that. And, and maybe you want to play some music and just then talk about, about that album and that process. And you said something very interesting to me when we were having a preliminary chat, and which is what I think that's a quotable quote. You said, "I had the box, he was gift wrapping." And I was like, wow, that's a great quote. So you can elaborate on that.
I will for sure. Let me just play a little bit of a song from the Lost Cause. This is Wild. The one song that about the mops basically. But this is Wild. I'll just play a little bit of it, so I hope you guys can enjoy it. Catch me as I'm falling overhead. Catch me as I'm falling overhead.
Wow, thanks so much for that. And so we,
I'll just keep this a little. Yeah, there we go.
It's definitely like one of your signature songs, and you guys can just talk about how you all decided to and this was essentially, I guess, the first major project you all were working on together, right?
Yeah, the first project, yes.
Yeah.
So I think it actually started, the work for this started all the way back in 2016, before I met him, where I had recorded most of the songs for the album. I was missing just one, last one. Yeah, except Jungle. And that has a funny story because he liked, so basically in 2017, where we were, sorry, I keep dropping things. Where we were, I think when we started officially working together in January and everything, so I played in the ideas, and I had this one idea, and I told him then, I said, like, listen, I am in writer's block galore. I don't know what it is I'm going to write right now. So I'm just stuck, and so I would play him this idea over and over again. He says, "You need to finish this," and this was the song "Jungle," which was ended up being the first single off of the album. But what ended up happening was 2017, when we started working together, he said, "Look, listen, you have this idea, you have this thing. Let's finish it off, finish recording it." He sat with me in my bedroom, pressing the recording button, stopping it. He was here, doing all these things, spent the time doing that. Spent a huge majority of our time, you know. Figuring out how to release it, what are we going to do, where are we going to get it mixed, how are we going to get it mastered. Like, I didn't have the ability to do that, so I figured out those kinds of things because I was good enough to do that. But he found a mastering engineer, Vivek Thomas. I was already working with Keshav Dhar a lot at the time, so he mixed the album for me. But Vivek Thomas was his recommendation. Suddenly, then he says, "Look, listen, we should do a crowdfunding campaign for this," and it made sense because making a crowdfunding campaign is like, it's a center for all your PR for the thing. People can contribute to it. If not, people know that there's a campaign going on for it, so you can contribute to it. And so suddenly it became like this. I never saw this process before. Like, this is how you can release an album. This is how you can do it as an independent artist. And, I did a few college shows in between, like a few festivals and everything of the sort. I started something called a Song a Day challenge, thanks to him, and that has actually revolutionized the way I write a song or like something. It takes the pressure off me having to sit down every day and think of something, whatever. And sometimes, and allows me to be more spontaneous for a fixed amount of time. So I have the ability to do things like that.
Pretty crazy thing that you do, right? You do this every July, is that right?
I do it every year. July is I try not to stick to a time period or something. I think the last 2 times I did it in July.
Yeah.
This time around I did it in the month of November.
Okay.
And I did a much shorter version of it.
So
of course,
you create a song every day of the month. That is like crazy.
I try to, yes. It's a little crazy, but I do it my way, and my way is a little slow and painstaking and everything of the sort. But I try to think of the idea, think of the video, everything else, in the space of the day and everything of the sort. This year was actually far more special to me because I actually convinced 2 guys from my Discord server or something like that to be a part of the challenge. So they too started making a song a day as well. Wow. So so it was like a nice family of songs and everything we were kind of building together.
Okay. Are those upcoming artists as well? I mean, are they?
I think they were fairly hobbyists, hobbyists and kind of independent musicians, just learning how to go through the process and things like that. And they were listeners of my music more than anything else. Yeah. But I think, but going back to the album, in the space of 1 year, from the start of 2017, when we started working together, to the December, we closed out the year with a festival in Rajasthan. In the space of 1 year, to have finished recording the album, he encouraged me. We sat in a hotel room in IIT Kanpur. I remember I played that riff over and over again, and I wrote the chorus in front of him of Jungle. Was it the chorus? I think I remember it was a chorus or something. Yeah. I wrote the chorus in front of him. As soon as I wrote it, he took my phone and says, "Let's film it now." From that moment on, I'm remembering instances like that, from that moment on, all the way to the end of the year, to think of a crowdfunding campaign. I got to play the Zero Festival that year, which I had been dreaming of. I love that fest. I love the story of it and everything, and I got to play it. And the day I left, I completed the funding for the campaign and everything of the sort. Managed to do more, and so the progress that I made in 1 year with one individual who actually had this one focus of making sure that the music could be as successful as it can. It changed the way I thought about how my music could be. It did not have to be about the gigs. It didn't have to be about the first thing of where can we make a quick buck or anything of the sort. It became very apparent that now everything I do is an investment, like one step at a time. And so this album in particular, The Lost Cause, was by far like such a valuable investment. So
and I think that just looking at that is so unique. And Rajeev, like, is that something that you also kind of, is that how you think of an artist's career? I mean, in terms of like this, when essentially you are also investing in their career, right? Because everything that you do, like in a literal sense, because they're successful, you're successful, but it doesn't necessarily only have to be like monetarily. So and what about the video? Because that video is again like such a like striking video. Like, how was that something that you guys decided that you all wanted to do together, or do you want to talk about that?
The reason why we did crowdfunding was because of the video mostly.
Okay.
I think Dhruv and Tanvi, they were talking before that, and then we had this idea, and then Dhruv said, okay, I'm going to do that, but how do we do that? And that's when, and then see, honestly, like that's the first project I ever worked as an album. I never worked on any music release before that. So for me, it was about trying to find what are the possible options to release music. And even before that, Dhruv only put out full album, but we also tried to figure out how we could put it out differently, like do pre-order. There's a reason why people do pre-order, and trying to find the reason why we should do that as well. So I think I would let Dhruv speak about the music video because he's more close with the process with Tanvi.
I mean, I'll keep it really simple. It was basically in the same way that Rajeev and I interacted. It was an investment in a person's idea. That person, Tanvi, had this exceptional thought process about how someone should go about making a story for a song, like how a music video should look. And that to me felt like, here's the thing of what I learned through this whole exercise is that whatever I've invested in now and how I've created and how I've done, it's like, this is the standard I'm setting. Like I'm setting this for myself. I cannot go below this ever again. And I set, it's like I told myself, I'm setting the bar with this. I'm never going to step below this. I'm going to keep trying to push myself. And so it was the same thing, like, with Rajeev's effort, with everything, with Tanvi having this concept and everything here. I was like, you know what? I believe in this person's process. I believe in this person's vision and stuff, something like that. Because I took the music as far as I could as an artist. I produced it, I recorded it, I mixed and mastered it. Everything it's all done. I can't do anything more to it now. So this is where I personally felt like, the having individuals like, with that eye for things, this is where it really matters. And this is why I continue to, like, I take credit for the song, but I can't take credit for the story that she made on camera. But it was inspired by the song, so I can do that much. But the fact of the matter is that, to have somebody who made something that was so striking, and to this day I still get like people tagging me in a story about a mop or something like that, tagging her in in relation to it or anything of the sort. And it kind of set the tone about how I decide to tell a story and how I decide to do anything from here on out, that everything is considered, everything is a careful approach. And this, and more often than not, my main thing was, my music needs to match up to the content I'm going to make.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, like, and that Tanvi Gandhi, right, who did the this thing. And I think anybody who has not seen the video, you should definitely check it out. And what's interesting is also that it's also one of your most streamed songs. So on audio, on Spotify and stuff. So you have like a direct kind of, a correlation between people checking out the video maybe and then going and streaming it. And, that's amazing. And, you're talking about stories, and I think that's a good sort of segue into the Book of I, which is really your kind of audio biography, really. And so maybe we can hear some music from it, and also then to talk about the process of that album. and how you all collaborated on releasing it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to play a song about that. From that album, sorry, not about. Imagine making a song about something you made.
I'm sure there's like many.
Yeah, there's many many of those I can understand.
Yeah.
Okay, and I wanted to play a song I really like. The thing is that if I play it from if I play it from the start, I'm going to want to finish it. This is the problem. So I'm going to try and pick a
You can
small
play
part
it
in the
as much as you want, as in like.
right. This is a song called Right. So I love playing this song. It's my personal favorite from the album. But yeah, here we go. And where do I write? Far east and our endeavor. And how many eyes to see into time forever. The tides underneath dancing away for hours and days, for hours and days. Some by the house in the corner alley. Let me lie in the sun, let me lie in the sun. Bring your story is already late. Let me lie in the sun, let me lie in the sun. Maybe I don't wanna have another cut on my face. I don't wanna have a single flower on my face at all. And maybe colors will be hitting it, taking it time. Sorry, I'll be hours on my bucket of this so low. And I'll go around my desire. All these distances remember me before or after that. Let me lie with all I hold dear. And if only I'd remember the smiles without you. Let me lie, and let me lie, let me lie, and let me lie, let me lie. Maybe I don't wanna have another cut on my face. I don't wanna have a single power on my face at all. And maybe colors will be needed if they needed time is. Sorry, I'll be hours on my bucket of bliss so low. Oh Lord, don't stop the rain. And how does one ask for forgiveness when the color blind? How does one ask for forgiveness when we're color blind? Stop for a minute and breathe me into life.
Well, thanks so much for that, because I mean that is such a I can tell it's such an emotional song.
Thank you.
And I mean, to me, this album really, I think, was really, I think personally, as was I felt that your music finally came to the place that it was always aiming to get to. Because I remember when you started your career, it was a lot about how you were this unique guitarist and your style of
Yeah.
guitar playing. and how that was what everybody was talking about. And the evolution of your songwriting, I think, has just it's sort of like. I mean, I think this album is really the strongest in terms of like the songwriting, because I think it's not just, I mean, it's easy to talk about it, like say that you're a singer-songwriter, but that it shows you that, there's singer-songwriter is just like a blanket term that sort of, talks about so many other things, because it brings in so many, it draws in so many different sounds and influences and, subjects, and sort of in this really uh, kind of seamless way. And yeah, so I think that's, I mean, for y'all, again, and Rajiv, do you want to talk about how, when it came to this project, like y'all again decided to go this kind of somewhat unique way, which I think at that, like, it's not maybe that unique today, wherein in terms of like this whole idea of now releasing a bunch of singles and then finally packaging it as an album. Was that something that you came up with, or you decided that that would be the best way to go, or was that something you guys decided to go together, or was it just something to help Dhruv in his music making process?
Right. I think I want to give a credit to somebody that I think I took it from. There's an artist by the name of Bruno Major. I'm his huge fan of, and also his manager. He's one of the kindest people that I've met with. Long story. So he sort of was in a place that he was about to give up his career, but then decided, okay, I'm going to try one last time. So he wrote 12 songs in 12 months, and at the end the 12 songs put it as an album. So, and of course, when all this stuff started, it was during lockdown, the first wave of COVID, right? So, of course, you can't go step out, do anything. So the only thing you have, you inside, what do you do? And we've been talking for a while that, okay, because the last time we had produced anything was 2018. There was no new music happening from Dhruv's world. So we thought, okay, but let's try do differently, because we're gonna be home. And you have all the time and space, and he records in his bedroom, so there is no traffic, so he can record also in the day and everything. So that's how it all started. Of course, he had all the songs written, but in terms of production, he had to take time sort of to make sure he could finish one song in a month. Then we have enough time to submit to our distributor to make sure it goes to all the platforms. And that's how it all started. And we had an idea, we'll do 12 songs, but we could do 10 songs only. So the agenda was very simple, that we want to keep putting out music, and there was we didn't even think about, okay, what's going to be the album name and anything like that. We had just thought, okay, let's keep putting music and see how that goes. So we started with Dear Madeline, and followed by Dark. But before that, he already had recorded right. But we started with Dear Madeline because that's what we thought would be a good way to start off with, followed by other songs. And we had no budget, honestly. So we had a very limited budget. So we had to figure out how do you make sure. So we took his old photographs, and with one of his friends' help, we made all the artworks for all the songs and artwork, and then find ways to make sure we get. So there have been. So over the time, we managed to build a lot of connections with people. There are a lot of YouTube channels actually who likes to use your songs as a playlist or standalone songs, and they have always been really kind and supported us through last 2-3 years. So it just been like pure. With the connection we have built, we try to use the time to make the most of it and release music and make sure it reaches to more people. With the support of Spotify, support of Apple, and all this playlist curators based all over the world, we managed to put this together with literally no budget actually.
Yeah, and you mentioned YouTube, because not many people actually, I hardly hear Indian independent artists talking about YouTube unless they're talking in the context of a music video. You mentioned playlists. Can you talk about a little bit about that? Because like it's all about Spotify and Apple for most people.
Yeah.
So,
Sure. So there's so many curators. Okay, they have massive following. One of them is Alex Rainbird Music, who have been like our close collaborators over the last 2 years. So there are lots actually. So
what do
have
these
like
guys do? So what do they
so
do?
So their primary job is to they do more like a playlist. Probably they will have 1-2 playlists. Some will have different specific genre. Like Alex Renberg, they have a very
they make compilations, I think. Yeah.
So they're like playlist influencers on YouTube.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
and
so
they,
So you have to find who are the right playlist curators and probably and then send them like cold emails. It all happens to that. I wrote like during Lost Cause, I must have been to 150 curators, and out of which I think 15-20 got back. Out of which like 4 or 5 curators, they said, okay, we'll go and put that in our compilation or playlist, whatever you call.
So was this all 150 across different platforms?
Across different platforms.
That's a great tip. I mean, I don't think like that's for other managers out there to sort of see this. Like, this is what your manager should be doing. Sending
and the reason why have a lot of plays is because of that, because the compilation in which Dhruv's song is there, that has got some massive number of streams for now, and
it's more than 20 million or something like that, on the video alone.
We have gotten more streams to that playlist than any Spotify editorial playlist. So and we get a lot of fans from Germany and all these places, and even Dhruv was part of their the anniversary, which was last year, and it was amazing.
It was this year actually. It was earlier this year.
Right.
It was, no. It was earlier this year actually. It was around April.
Correct. So that's how it all happened.
And what about this idea of releasing singles over albums? I mean, Dhruv, are you the kind of person who's like, this is my body of work, and like, you heard the whole Adele wanting her music not to be, you were talked about sort of doing some surgeries to sort of, like, clearly you're not from the Adele philosophy. It's like, this is my album has to be listened to in this order, or
look, I think it's an evolved process. I think, like, the truth of the matter is that I was kind of when the whole process of making all the songs for the Book of I in Perspective were focused mostly about my exploration through music production, and understanding how I can work within my limits, but how do I make myself sound like as if I was working in a studio? And this was the challenge, and it didn't matter so much that the songs I had already written needed to sort of fit into an order. I was throwing myself into the deep end towards a different challenge. I figured, like, the landscape of an artist has changed so much. We are now on the same wavelength as a content creator on YouTube or on TikTok or on or on Reels or on Instagram. What a piece of music is not just that, it's a bit of content. So when you curate it, when you talk about it, when you build something around it and everything, the sort and you take the time and effort to sort of tell that story every time. What I learned through that process was that not everything has to sort of lead to from one place to the other. Our minds do not always work in one line. We are allowed to be disheveled a little bit in the way that we think. I mean, my bed is a mess, so like, how else are we going to like get past, like, if we sometimes, like, notice the things around us in that way, why not even consider your process of exploration to be the same? And this was very crucial because the first Dear Madeline and Dark were all produced before the lockdown, and so we were like, I have 3 songs ready, how are we going to do the rest? And this is where I thought, this is where both of us sat down, is like, look, listen, if we released 1 song a month, it changes the way you think, because you put all your attention onto one song, people listen to the song and they're like, wow, and then you put another song, it's like, you just released one, there's another song, oh my god, you're creating a breadcrumb trail, and this is what we kind of learned in the fact that you're kind of what I like to sort of relate to the fact is like on Instagram you have the carousel. Like if you went on holiday and there were 10 pictures of you in 10 unique locations, and you put all of that in one carousel, and the number of people that engaged with it will be the same for all the pictures that you posted in that one thing. Whereas if you had spread that post across like 10 days and posted one image across 10 days, 80 people will like each photo, or 100 people or 20 people, doesn't matter. And you're kind of spreading your engagement across like, a bunch of songs. And it was the most practical thing I'd ever heard in terms of trying to release your music. Why not spread your engagement across your music over a period of time? When you put your story out there in one go, it ends there. That's it.
Yeah.
If I may add, so if you look at, if you put an album, so if you go to Spotify and Apple, it probably could help you with one song or two songs in terms of how they could push it from the editorial standpoint. But if you do a single, so you have one song that you can ask, hey, I have a song coming out, and if they think it's right, they could probably push all the songs, So each song is getting their, worth of value. Instead of if you put it in an album, you only probably could get 1, 2, the rest may just get lost.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of musicians are thinking about. But like now, we're actually already, I think just to wrap up, if you guys can talk about now this new project and what this means for the next sort of stage and the evolution of Dhruv's career.
I hope you guys can still see and hear me. Sorry. But yeah. Thank you so much, Sarvar, for sharing the song. I think the biggest challenge with doing anything is that I still consider anything I do and make and work on as a learning experience. We the one thing that we try to do, at least Rajeev and I together, is like when we talk about a release, when we talk about an album, it's our album, it's our song, it's our thing that we've done together. So if I decide to go in an artistic direction or something like that, it's also our decision to also build around it and put it together, because the album cannot just be mine on the merit of its on its own. Like you've got like an artist who's taken their own time and consideration to take their own inspiration and make the artwork. You've got this videographer who's taken the time and considered approach to sort of think of a storyline and a process and everything. And as far as I was concerned with just where the music was, this is a song again I had written like at least maybe 2 years ago, or where I had the words written down, but I hadn't like thought of what the music was going to be like. And in its sense, like it was so fitting because the story was so true to being locked in a room, being locked in one space, being caught up in a lockdown, with everything to do with being like trapped in one area and everything. But the reality of what this led to was me exploring a different side to what my music can be further. Like for me, when a song like Right was written, again it was like this, it was a beautiful symphony. But when a song like Dear Madeline was written, it was it was this twinge of heartache. But then you have this song like Fly, which is an angry Dhruv, like it's a different emotion. And I am not really angry in my songs, like so how do I kind of put that across? What's this emotion that I have, and in the sense that I think making this kind of music now has made me feel like and has, especially the both of us, has made us both feel like that that there is no need to sort of stay in one niche. There's no need to sort of be typecast as something anymore. Like I am head over heels in love with making music. So much so that I'm not too concerned with, the labels that somebody puts me, as long as they puts me in, so long as they actually enjoy what we're making and the stories we're telling, and and finding a connection with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was more important to just have a fascinating journey, and it doesn't happen alone. And I think with this time around, the bigger thing was get the music ready, get the story ready, get everything sorted, and then be calm and considered from here on out. Once the thing is out, you have everything in hand: your story, your song, your video, your artwork, everything. And so, the way we thought about this was less to do with, like, taking things as they come, but this was a very considered approach, like, having released an album in March and then now coming to a place here, where we have, like, the steps and the thing leading towards an EP. Those are really calm and considered things.
Yeah. And Rajiv, like, can you share your inputs in this now new way of working? And I believe there's some Google Docs were involved in this process. And yeah, I mean, I like, we didn't get to see the video, but I did get to see one like frame of it when it, and I believe the egg is the new mop.
That's
yeah, but you tell us how have now you sort of, not only is this a change in sound, but this is also a way and you guys are working together.
Right. So I think because of the Song a Day challenge, he I think has a lot of songs. He has managed to finish. There's like certain ideas that he wants to finish. Okay, we have, like, he has about 20 songs that we're going to put out over the next few years. Okay, but the fact is that they're not all fall into the same sort of a palette, musical palette. So we had to find a way. Okay, how do we make sure we put them into a palette and have 4 or 5 songs? So that means we probably have about 4 EPs planned. So that's how it all started, and we wanted to try something different this time in terms of the palette. See, it's not that, okay, we're doing something because something comes to our mind. There's a reason why we're doing something. Okay, it's to build a catalog, not just to make sure it sounds like this all the time. There's so much variety. Okay, and we also know the fact where we want to go in the future in terms of the space, not only about the musical. At the same time, how do we build the audience in a different way? So we are very clear about that. How it all started working, because if you look at the Book of I, it was like, okay, we write, like, he writes one song, finish it, and put it out. It was like one song at a time. With this, and we also, like, I personally observed a pattern after its release. It just get little like too much happening in terms of pressure. So what we decided this time, okay, let's create an EP fully. Then we get to releasing, like, with having a lot of time in our hand to plan and get things moving. Because what happens when you release with Book of I, if you have one song, you just put it out, then get to marketing, get to sharing the music, then you get back to production. And there's a very little time in your from a mental standpoint, like, coming out of production, getting into marketing, putting it out, and again getting back to production, more from a creative standpoint. But with this time, since we observed a pattern, like, how do we tackle that, and so that we don't get in that kind of the same, we don't follow the same pattern again and get burnt out. So that's how we started working. We made sure we have all the materials in terms of course, the music, and how many videos we want to do with the 1 or 2, and who we want to work with in terms of directors, in terms of artworks, in terms of how we want to tell the stories and everything. It was well planned, well before even we thought of putting a first single out. So I think it's more carefully crafted in terms of even the story we wanted to put out, and then how we want to also market, and how we would like people to perceive it as.
Yeah. And I just wanted to ask, how much of you making sure that he actually sticks to this new pattern?
Yeah, we'll see. I think we'll get to know. We'll observe a lot of
like,
things.
are you calling him like every day saying, okay, you were supposed to do this on this date. It's in the Google Doc.
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that happens.
Yeah. No, but I think I think what Rajiv said was that, like, I think every time we make just to build on that, like every time we make a piece of music, every time we make a release, and every time we think about how we're putting it all together and assembling it, you have the way in which you take a year to think about, put everything together, the songs, the artwork, think about a campaign to promote it and everything of the sort. And whilst they're all puzzle pieces, they all come at odd times, and then you have pure coincidence over the last year, where you're kind of just like working off of literally spare time, and everything of the sort, and occupying time and everything, and using your own wherewithal. This here now, it felt like it felt like the music feels very representative of how I feel as a person as well, like like a person who's desperate to break free from my old patterns and my old pain, and and everything of the sort. So in the same way that we've been working and we've been considered about all these things, it was very important it was really important to be prepared, because I think a lot of the times we just sometimes we just fall short of being prepared. A lot of the times you kind of wonder about the playlisting, all this other stuff, like how you're going to post on this thing, how you're going to make this music video. People seldom like really notice that 90% of the work that goes into the music, at least my music that goes out, is done by the two of us. Like, that's it. For one song to come out, that's just 3 minutes and 26 seconds or something like that. There's, I mean, like, literally 4 months of work has gone into just making sure that is something that we put out a piece of work that we were just genuinely proud of.
Yeah, so that's one side. And also you have to also think of, okay, do you want to get a publisher on board for this project? Do you want to get a sync agent for this project? So you have to write to a lot of people, see how did they find, and if you could work together, how we could capitalize on those stuff. A lot goes into it. It's not just, okay, releasing music, that's just one part of things, but making sure you get your due in terms of all the royalties involved, making sure if you want to find right partner in different markets, whether it's US, UK, or India even, So these are also crucial parts, finding partners who are also willing to, invest into you. It's not possible that we can, take over the world, just two people, not possible. We need right partner, we need right people.
You need to collaborate.
We need to collaborate, correct. So,
and I have to ask, what is a NFT coming out next?
Maybe.
We were talking.
Maybe.
For sure.
Maybe. This is, I can't really say right now, because I think like that will also be something that, if we do start, I don't want to go about it in a haphazard way. And knowing India's crypto environment and everything of the sort, I want to make sure that I think both Rajiv and I would love to make sure that it's something that, is that can be enjoyed by by the people who want to invest in such a thing. So
there's a mop and an egg.
The mop and egg NFT.
Anyway, I think that we can wrap up to this point, but it has been such a great conversation, and like we don't know about NFTs, but we definitely know that we're getting a lot of the EPs from you both in the next few years, so that's definitely very exciting news. And
each one will be different to each other for sure.
This one's the angry dude.
Maybe that will be like romantic. I don't know.
There might be a romantic one. There might be a morose one. Who knows?
But I mean, that's also something else, right? Nowadays, people listen to music by mood, and so whether or not you're doing it consciously, or in a way you're sort of literally making music that sort of calls out to be playlisted. But thank you both so much, and and I think everybody just go and check out the video and the song, and follow. You want to just mention all your social media handles so that people
just head over to mrdhruv.com, and of course for Rajiv, you have a website now, no? Do you not?
Yeah. I don't
You
have
are
one. Okay, not buy.
But yeah, just you can follow him on Indie Music 2020 on Instagram. And
And you are Mr. Dhruv on Instagram.
yeah, Mr. Dhruv with two V's,
Yeah.
with two V's
Okay.
at the end. But yeah, please feel free to follow me, of course. But I'm just very proud of Rajeev. This is his first webinar, so this is great.
I'm sorry if I've been awkward. I usually
Yeah.
very
No,
awkward.
You'll be very sorry. You need to be very sorry.
Very, very sorry, guys. But thank you so much, Amit. And
Thank you, Amit, and thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dhruv and
Sarvaj.
Rajeev.
And hi, Anurag. It's good to see you.
Yeah, what's up, Anurag?
Yeah. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. And and sorry, I just want to say there's a question. Like whatever questions are there, we didn't have time to address them. So if you guys could just like answer them, on the Facebook page or in the chat. Okay, now my voice is echoing, so server. Over to you.
All right. However, we could take 5 minutes to answer one of the audience questions if...
I think we can answer this question.
Okay, sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. So it's a two-part question.
Sorry, Sarvar, I believe your mic is echoing the thing. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Go ahead, Amit.
Yeah. It's a two-part question, and maybe you can each take one. The first part is for artists just starting out. How should you go about finding a good artist manager in your city? Should you wait for them to approach you like Rajeev did? And the second part is, should established artists have separate managers for music and for day-to-day management? Dhruv, do you want to answer the first one, and Rajeev maybe take the second part?
What is day-to-day management?
Yeah.
This is what I want.
It's more like operations, I guess.
Yeah. But I think I'll answer the first part because then I think Rajeev would be more qualified in the second part. How should you find an artist manager in your city, or should you wait for one to approach like Rajeev did? I think my personal opinion is that you should know everything an artist manager needs to do. Mm-hmm. As an artist, you need to know everything an artist manager does, because at this point you might not know it very well, but you just need to know everything that they might do for their career, for their music. And the other thing is that it's not about waiting for somebody to approach you or anything of the sort. Like, I am the kind of individual who works better when I know that the right opportunity comes to me, and I think like with working with Rajeev, we have experienced more of that, where the right opportunity just ends up coming to us because of the work we do. Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing that an artist should always focus on is the work. The music needs to feel like it's the best they've ever made. Mm-hmm. Your music needs to feel like it's constantly challenging you and everything. You need to put yourself under that pressure and everything of the sort. I think the right time to get a manager is more for the fact of where you have the mentality of not just thinking of you getting burned out doing the same thing over and over again. You want to maybe increase your earnings or anything of the sort. No, I feel like an artist manager should only be should be worked upon when you're around somebody who sees the potential within you. So if you find that kind of individual who works on the advice that who kind of gives you not like point blank, like strong criticisms or anything of the sort, but actually notices the potential of what you can be and what you can become, and gives you a vision of what you can work on. And sees something that you often don't see. That is the thing that you need to sort of pay attention.
And this is something that I actually I'm constantly sharing my opinion on Instagram. I don't know whether how many people like that, but like for instance, one of the things that I said recently was that rather than looking for a label, I think that independent artists should look for great management, because they can have a far bigger impact on their career. And I got this I thought it was an odd question, but it's sort of related to the question that you have been asked today, which is, should you wait for the manager to approach you? And this touches upon something that you mentioned earlier, where I said but what difference does it make? And the idea was that if you wait for somebody to approach you as opposed to you approaching them, the power dynamics in play. Because if somebody is like approaching you, then you are in a position of power because they are the ones who have sort of called on you. And that just seems like looking at it in the wrong way from the onset. Like this is not about power dynamics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you were talking about, like I mentioned in our conversation yesterday, like I felt like I was really good at building boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I was so good at building a box. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know how to make it look good. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to gift wrap it or anything of the sort. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just need that person who knows how to help you package it, how to seal it shut and make it look pretty from the outside.
Yeah. Yeah. And Rajeev, now do you want to take the second part of that question? Which
if I also may add, I would like to also add a few things to the first question. I think before you even get a manager, you should know exactly what is a manager does for you. Understand the music business from a from a business standpoint. You do all the dirty work, so you know exactly when a manager comes whether he's doing a decent job for you or not. So yeah, I think we could, if it makes sense. The second question, see, when all the established artists, they don't have just a manager. They have a lot of more people working with him or her or them. They have a booking agent, they have, of course, day-to-day operations manager. They have a publisher. They have a music label, and they have a PR agency. So it's not just one people doing everything. They have a team who works with them, yes, manager overlooks everything and make sure everything goes well. But it's impossible to, just a manager do everything for you. Of course, it depends on, where the artist is in their career. But yeah, you need more than just a manager. If you're doing really well, and if you can, of course, happy to share your money from the pie, because it's all about the share. You don't pay a salary. So let's say if you have a publisher, if there's a sync agency, so whatever money comes in, they take a percentage from that. So if you're willing to take a hit, and of course you have to see if you get the value out of that, if you get more opportunities like that. So yeah, for sure. You need more. It's not just a manager will do everything. You need a booking agent, you need a publisher, good publisher, you need a good possibly sync agents if the publisher doesn't work as a sync agency.
And the more I suppose the higher you scale in your career, that's when the need for these different roles come up, and the more you work with specialized people, the better for you, rather than having somebody who's trying to be a jack of all trades.
Exactly. And also, and there are also different people for different markets as well. The people who work specifically for markets like US, UK, Australia, and all these places. So it's better to have more people with you.
Pratik Kuhad, I think, has separate manager for India and the US. So that's an example of somebody who's now got to a space where he needed two different sets of management.
Even if you don't have a manager, if you have a different teams, like when it comes to publisher or PR or anything like that, it also helps. It depends on what you're looking for. But of course, you can't just have a manager and expect to come under you.
Exactly. Awesome.
But if I can suggest you a book, if you want to know about music business, there's a book I think everybody should read called "All You Need to Know About the Music Business" by Ronald Pascal.
Yeah, I think I have it here somewhere.
Which it's available on Amazon.
It's great. And if you want specific anything music publishing or something, you can definitely write to me.
If you are up to it, maybe you can just drop in a list of things on the Facebook page, like your sort of top 5.
There's a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of podcasts also you can check, which are also amazing. There's a platform called CMU. They're amazing.
CMU is awesome.
What's happening in the music business.
CMU, and I also want to plug Music Ally, which is a publication, that I work with, and they're both CMU, which is Complete Music Update, and Music Ally, both UK-based publications, but they talk about issues that affect the world, essentially. If you're in music, if you're a professional musician, definitely subscribe to both their newsletters. They're awesome.
You can also check Setlist on Spotify. It's also really cool. It's again by CMU. So
Yeah. Great. Thanks so much. It's 8:00. It's Saturday night. Like I don't know. It's time to, switch off your screen and switch on another screen.
Thanks a lot, Amit. Thanks a lot, Sarwar.
So thank you both again so much. And Sarwar, over to you.
Thank you so much. I won't take up much of anybody's time. Just wanted to thank all our speakers and our moderator for today. And thank you, Dhruv and Rajeev, for especially illustrating that the artist-manager relationship is not just a professional association. It is very much a personal relationship as well. So before signing off, I would like to invite our audiences for the events we have planned for the rest of the month. The Indian Music Experience is partnered with Ranga Shankara for an ongoing concert series called RS Connect, and this month we have a very special performance lined up. Please join us next Saturday, the 11th of December, 5:30 p.m. at Ranga Shankara for a Carnatic vocal solo by Ms. Prema Vivek. For more updates on IME's events, you can look at our website and our social media pages. Again, I would like to thank our panelists, Amit, Dhruv, and Rajeev, and our audiences, and hope to see you at our next event. Thank you so much. And apologies for any technical slip-ups that might have happened. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
So much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.